So I recently saw this clip about Asmongold reacting to the Marines referencing Helldivers. Not only was that kind of funny, but also probably effective since we saw how effective Super Earth's recruitment was when the game launched. I decided to link that clip in my Discord. By the way, you should join the Discord. And one of my Twitch subs, by the way, you should follow me on Twitch, said Helldivers are the bad guys, by the way, clown emoji. So I said what you're seeing here on screen, and decided, you know what, this could make a good video. That's why I like to post clips in my Discord, because when someone says something I would consider as incorrect, I get inspired to make a video. That means you could be the reason for my next video, who knows. Anyway, let's break down a lot of the talking points about why humanity are the bad guys to start off with, so we can keep the treasonous people watching longer for the algorithm, okay? So, in the first galactic war that took place in 2044, which is kind of wild to think about how close we are to our first real galactic war, guys. But the war lasted 40 years and ended in 2084, which I believe is when the first game starts, since the war only lasts for a short time before resetting, like in-game. Also, I kept seeing people saying the war started in 2084, but the official Helldivers wiki says 2044, so I'm going with that just so we're clear. The war started initially due to the rising tensions with a sub-faction of humanity called the Cyborgs, who lived on Cyberstan. Long story short, they modified themselves to adapt better to the planet's environment and started to form their own government. So Super Earth was like, you better stop doing that and keep mining, since that's all that's pretty much on Cyberstan is ore. Then the Fire Nation attacked and committed an act of terrorism, and we blamed the cyborgs for it, which was never, as far as I'm aware, it was never proven true or false, so I'll let you decide that. Then there's these giant bug monsters that have some kind of hive mind and are able to spread with spores to other planets, but the reason we fought them was because A, we can't really communicate to make peace with bugs, and B, their blood is basically space oil called E710, and if you turn E710 upside down, it says oil pretty much. But it allows our ships to go FTL speeds. Lastly, the Illuminate are a high-tech species that were supposedly pretty peaceful, but they also literally mind control their entire population. So they better be pretty peaceful if they have actual superpower level mind control. But their tech, their mind control, and the possibility that they're harboring weapons of mass destruction caused us to attack them before they wormed their way into our brains. I should mention that Super Earth as a government was formed through what was called the Great War, and their government style is managed democracy, which I'll get into a bit later. Now, after humanity wins the first galactic war, we built farms for the bugs, sent the remaining cyborgs back to Cyberstan to do what we asked them to do in the first place and yearn for the mines, and we banished the Illuminate back into the void from whence they came. So with all of that out of the way, let's cover some of the key talking points as to why Super Earth are the bad guys. The first war didn't have to be a three-way war, but it's possible that we actually saved humanity by striking the other factions first, especially the squids. I don't know if you can really trust those squids. And the cyborgs did supposedly commit acts of terror, but even if they didn't, they were still trying to distance themselves from Super Earth, and you kind of can't really, do that in a society. Managed democracy could be seen as bad because the way it works is the voters will fill out a democratic preferences ballot about what kind of policies they support, which honestly isn't really that bad of an idea taken at face value. But there are multiple ways this system could be rigged, and again, I'll leave that up to you to decide if it is or isn't. Also, it would imply that the same people will be in charge, no matter what policies you pick, probably. Although we did actually just lose the previous president during the attack of Super Earth, so, rip old president, which means someone new was appointed who might run things differently than the old president, but it's likely pretty similar to the last guy. Also, the fact we refer to our leader as president is at least a little bit better than a dictator or a monarch, for example. But those labels don't always mean that someone is necessarily bad at running a society. It's just more so about how they came into power in that society. Next up, we should address the fact that the game director said, "We are the baddies," which first off, we out here slaying Queen. And secondly, Super Earth and humanity are not perfect, but the lore in the game would suggest we are the lesser of four evils, which I'll cover a bit more in a minute here. Lastly, I'd like to bring up the strict rules/laws of managed democracy. For example, you're expected to have zero communication with any alien force, otherwise you're deemed a traitor. And I mean, like, that's kind of fair, because like you're in the middle of a war and stuff with these factions. But you also can't really like loudly say anything too harsh about the way your government is run. Otherwise, again, you're speaking treacherous lies. So the freedom of speech is for sure more heavily regulated, even to the point that you aren't technically supposed to even think about treason. And this fact is a bit harder to defend, but I will say humanity has never had a war with itself. Cough, cough. We don't count the cyborgs as real humans. Cough. We haven't had a war with other normal humans since the Great War, and we just had 100 years of peace after the first Galactic War. Okay, we've covered some of the main reasons we might be the bad guys, but I want to get into the actual points that inspired this whole video. The Second Galactic War started in 2184 and is still going, but this is like where you really start to lose any sympathy for the other factions, in my opinion. Starting with the bots, who are called the automatons now, as they are the children of the cyborgs that got sent out in the deep space or something to prepare for war and liberate Cyberstan. I want to start by showing you a clip to set things off here. Have a listen.
Do you know what will happen when you lose? Nothing. We will not enslave you. We will not decimate you. We will not take your home. We will return to Cyberstan and rebuild what you destroyed. And we will leave you alone. We will give you the grace and the peace that you have withheld from us. But until then, heart, steel, we kill.
So first off, let's completely debunk everything you just heard there. That clip was a fan edit of the bots. It's not from Arrowhead or connected to any actual lore. It's quite literally bot propaganda. The actual channel has 200 subs, which is more than me. I know, okay, no need to cook me like that. But they have no connections to the game and are not a reliable source for the bots. This fan edit actually has as much lore implications as this clip right here.
I love you. Afraid you'd find someone else. Why else would I feel that fear if I wasn't desperately in love with you? My metallic heart screams for your touch. This heart and steel belongs to you, my love.
Secondly, I want to address the idea that the bots are here just to reclaim Cyberstan and live in peace. If that were true, then why did they start their attack way over here, 3 sectors away from Cyberstan? Wouldn't you think it'd make more sense to just pop up right in the sector Cyberstan's in, like they did when their main fleet arrived? You could say, wow, clearly, EdgeLess, you don't understand the tactics of it. They were probing us and drawing our forces from Cyberstan to attack later. Okay, but like, this is why that doesn't make sense. Would they not make the defenses of the surrounding planets weaker by attacking there first with their Vanguard fleet? Wouldn't they learn more information by probing Cyberstan and seeing if the cyborgs are even still there? Wouldn't they have killed way less people by attacking only the Cyberstan sector? Couldn't their Vanguard fleet just drop by Cyberstan and save the cyborgs and leave? And lastly, but most importantly, no, they didn't pull our forces away from Cyberstan at all, because we can quite literally warp across the galaxy in seconds. Like, how much copium are you huffing right now to believe that the automatons just want Cyberstan? On top of all of that, they have since expanded greatly, and you could say, actually, EdgeLess, they're just protecting Cyberstan by making a defensive line. Okay, brother, but like, if it's defensive, then why do they keep attacking planets Also, in-game, we literally see them making human smoothies, killing prisoners of war, and cutting people up for no apparent reason other than probably just to fit the human parts into their blenders. Finally, in the Discord, I was shown this image saying the bot's first message was a peace offer, but the only thing I could find about their first message was that it translates to AH, which I said either means arrowhead or annihilate humanity, as probably the most likely options. You can't tell me you still support these dudes after all of that, and if you do, I need to speak to your democracy officer right now. The bots were the long one though, so I'll cover the other two factions a lot quicker, I promise. So, the bugs, who are now called the Terminids, broke out of their perfectly good farms and started spreading like crazy, killing everything. And we know for a fact they destroy all life on a planet because we literally see it on their hive worlds, which become a barren wasteland with zero life, and is also the worst place to visit, by the way. Did humanity make the bugs more monstrous through years of farming and experimenting? Yes, even the game would state as much. But we really don't have any reason to want them to freely roam around when we were already getting free oil from them without burning resources fighting a galactic war. My personal Illuminati conspiracy is that the Illuminate let the bugs out and informed the bots that now would be a good time to attack, because like, think about it. What are the odds that the bugs break out and the bots decide to attack at the same time, and then only like a year and a half later, the squids show up when humanity's already had its hands full with two powerful fronts? Like, there's almost like a 0% chance that all just coincidentally occurred naturally. But I digress. Whatever the bugs are now is unnatural even to their own homeworld, and they will just continue to endlessly consume everything, even the other two factions. So there's really not like much to say about them being the bad guys, but they're definitely way worse. Finally, we have the Illuminate, who are likely the ones pulling the strings of the war to begin with, causing actually hundreds of billions of deaths on all fronts. They kidnap entire planets' populations and turn them into mindless space zombies and abominations that for some reason can just like phase through the ground and smack you. Arrowhead, you should get on that. Then, like I said earlier, their entire society is mind controlled, not just like in a propaganda way, but like, I mean like actual mind control, so they truly actually do not have freedom and democracy like us Helldivers. I'd also like to bring up that if you see the Helldivers 1 cinematic of Super Earth losing the war, you actually see the planet exploding, which some people point to as proof that the squids do have weapons of mass destruction, and we know for a fact that the dark fluid technology they have can turn a planet into a black hole, and that they can just throw that black hole at other planets to destroy them. So if you ask me, I think humanity had some pretty good justifications to fear the squids' tech, if not just their mind control powers. Like, how can you expect an entire society of mind controlled beings to not want to also mind control you rather than having open diplomacy with you? Like, what benefit does that give them to just have open diplomacy with you when they can just worm their way into your mind and make you do what they want? Listen, at the end of the day, the bots showed up to get revenge rather than saving their own people on Cyberstan and leaving. The bugs just kill everything and are beyond communicating with, and the squids showed up for revenge instead of just living peacefully somewhere else when they've shown that they can travel through black holes like wormholes, and I'm pretty sure their ships would be plenty fine for travel if the black hole thing didn't work out. I don't think they'd have any issues finding a new galaxy to go live in. Humanity and Super Earth have done some bad stuff, but it really isn't as bad as the other three factions, like, let's be honest, bro. And the second galactic war was a lot more avoidable than the first, since all these factions were all kind of sharing the galaxy at that time, and the tensions were a lot higher back then. But this time, the war started because the other factions decided to show back up. They could have just stayed out of it. They could have just completely avoided this entire war, and this was completely on them this time. You could say, like, well, Super Earth started the first galactic war, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, maybe they did. Maybe they had reason to that was warranted. But this time, they actually, like, just kind of didn't start the war, and are actually kind of, like, not really the aggressors in this war. I'd also like to mention that there are technically sort of non-canon sub-factions of the Helldivers, like the Chaos Divers, who don't quite subscribe to managed democracy. So you could say that humanity as a whole isn't like completely bad if you want to count those as canon, which I mean they kind of aren't, sort of, I guess, probably not. But even if we don't count those sub-factions of the Helldivers, I mean, I really just don't see how humanity could be worse than the other three factions right now. But if you disagree, then leave a comment or talk to me in the Discord about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.